Starting Alone in the Dark 2024 might cause a deja vu. If you didn't know it any better during the first moments, you might just mistake it for Resident Evil. From character animation and menus to UI, the game feels like it was stripped straight from Capcom. And if you are familiar with the RE games of this specific era, this clip might say it all. Which is quite ironic, because these days it's pretty much accepted that the first Resident Evil game took many notes from the original Alone in the Dark from 1992, which therefore is often considered the inventor of survival horror. Now the tables have turned, yet I'm not complaining. Traditional survival horror is not plenty, so there's no harm if clones make for a bigger genre representation, just like back in the day. I welcome all spooky mansions infested with monsters and ludicrous puzzles to solve, as long as the games are done well, and Alone in the Dark very much is. While it might look like a knockoff, it doesn't feel poorly made, boasting a surprisingly strong atmosphere of its own. For one, compared to Resident Evil's Stress Terror, it's more of a supernatural detective game, almost like a point-and-click adventure, as you are playing detectives trying to solve a mystery in a mental hospital, which is, not so luckily, also connected to a nightmare world. During these nightmare parts, there's also increased combat, and it's hard to deny, this is where the game might look like jank. Shooting is fine, but stealth and close encounters feel like an afterthought with low budget animations. Yet the worst thing you could say about combat is that it isn't very interesting, but also not frustrating. Not much worse than in many horror classics of old. While as an eerie investigation game, it is quite successful. You actually have to take in your surroundings and even the notes in your inventory. They aren't just decoration, and at some point it straight up becomes Tomb Raider. Even if you turn on the modern easy mode, it doesn't spoil any solutions. This game is a reminder being stuck for a minute or two or 5 will only make successful exploration more rewarding and make you actually feel like being in the character's role, compared to other games which can't bear to have their audience think for longer than 30 seconds before giving away these solutions. Beyond that, what makes the game stand out is a surprisingly strong audiovisual identity for its surreal pseudo-film noir backdrop. As janky as combat might look, the environments do not. Ranging from foggy streets to spooky catacombs, there's a pretty good sense of eeriness and style, while the moody soundtrack goes for that slightly distorted jazz for just the right amount of unease. And the game does a decent job of slowly escalating the stakes as the borders of reality fall apart. While there has been more visually creative games in this area, it's still easy to become invested as a genre fan. And the story goes for quirky characters in the vein of Twin Peaks and such, even if not quite as well written. Sometimes it's not quite clear whether the story is cheeky or just hokey, and there's a few weird quirks, like often characters would appear behind closed doors and usually vanish during gameplay. But all that, intended or not, only makes the game more absurd in a good way. It feels like a cult PS2 title, which I mean as a big compliment. It isn't just reminiscent of Resident Evil. If you ever were a fan of things like Alan Wake, Deadly Premonition, Eternal Darkness, Myst, Folklore and so on, there's a good chance that Alone in the Dark is gonna scratch an itch, even if it might not be as well rounded as each thing it reminds you of. But it only truly drops the ball during the abrupt ending, which sadly contains a tonal clash similar to something like Batman Arkham Asylum. Anyway, there is a German saying that well copied is better than poorly imitated. This seems to ring true for Alone in the Dark. After multiple failed reboots, this version, despite maybe being less original and ignoring the big fumble at the end, is a much more coherent and enjoyable interpretation of the franchise.